When my father told me I didn't belong on their luxury cruise, the very one I secretly paid for, something in me broke. So I smiled, walked away, and made one call. By morning, their entire vacation turned upside down, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. Hi, I'm Natalie Pierce. I'm 31 years old, and I live in San Diego, California. For as long as I can remember, I have worked quietly behind the scenes to give my family a better life. I thought that's what a good daughter did. I thought my actions would earn me a place in their hearts. But when my father looked me in the eye and said, "You don't belong here," on a cruise ship floating in the Caribbean, on a vacation that existed only because of a $20,000 charge on my credit card, I realized they never saw me as family. They saw me as their sponsor, a walking, talking bank account that was occasionally allowed to sit at the dinner table. So I made a choice. It wasn't a choice born from rage or a desire for revenge. It was quieter than that. It was the choice to finally see myself as clearly as they saw me, and once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. That night, I decided to stop paying for a seat at a table where I was never truly welcome. My story isn't about a family fight. It's about financial sacrifice, deep betrayal, and the strange, quiet freedom that comes when you stop begging for their love and start building your own. I was the invisible daughter. Growing up, I was the oldest of 3 in a small house that always felt a little too crowded and a little too short on cash. My father, Richard, was a proud, strict man who believed life was about enduring, not enjoying. My mother, Helen, was a professional peacemaker. Her main job was to smooth over conflict, which usually meant asking me to give in. My younger siblings, Troy and Megan, were the stars. Troy was the charming athlete who could do no wrong. Megan was the pretty, sociable one who lit up every room. And I was Natalie, the responsible one, the serious one, the helper. When Troy got a B on a history paper, my dad would clap him on the back and say, "That's my boy." When Megan was voted onto the homecoming court, we had a celebration dinner. When I graduated from college a year early with top honors, my father nodded and said, "Good, that's what you were supposed to do." My successes were expected. Theirs were celebrated. My role was defined early on. "You're good with money, Natalie," my mother would say, her voice soft and tired. "Just help out. Don't make drama." That became my function. I was the family's shock absorber. I was good with numbers, so I balanced their checkbook. I was organized, so I planned their appointments. I didn't make drama. I just fixed it. After college, I started a travel tech company. It was a simple idea, an app that helped small businesses manage corporate travel rewards. It took off faster than I ever imagined. Suddenly, I wasn't just stable. I was successful. The numbers in my bank account grew, and so did my family's needs. It started small. My dad's car needed new tires. "You can cover this, right, Natty?" Troy would ask, already knowing the answer. Then it was bigger things. Troy had some student loans he'd forgotten about. Megan needed a security deposit for a new apartment. My mother needed surgery, and their insurance deductible was steep. Each time they came to me. Each time I said yes. I wrote checks and made bank transfers without a word of protest. A part of me believed that if I gave enough, if I solved enough problems, one day they would see me. Not the helper, not the wallet, but me, Natalie, their daughter, their sister. I just wanted a real seat at the family table, not one I had to purchase. Then came the idea of the cruise. My parents were approaching their 35th wedding anniversary. Megan suggested it during a Sunday dinner. "We should do something amazing," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Like a huge family vacation, a Caribbean cruise." Everyone loved the idea. My father, who usually scoffed at such luxuries, actually smiled. "That would be something," he said quietly. Then all eyes turned to me. The silence was heavy. I knew what they were waiting for. I was the one who could make something happen. "I'll take care of it," I said. The words tasted like metal in my mouth. A wave of relief washed over the room. My mother beamed. "Oh, Natalie, just this once. It would mean the world to us." So I did it. I booked a 7-day Caribbean cruise for 7 people. My parents, Troy and his wife, Megan and her fiancé, and me. It cost just over $20,000. I booked suites for them, with balconies overlooking the ocean. I wanted them to have the best of everything. I wanted this gift to be so big, so undeniable, that they would have no choice but to finally acknowledge what I did for them, to finally want me there with them. That was my mistake. I assumed the invitation included me. The first 2 days on the ship were a masterclass in quiet exclusion. I found out on the first day that my cabin was on a lower deck, a small, windowless room near the crew quarters. Theirs were 3 decks up in the premier suite section. "It must have been a booking mix-up," my mother said, avoiding my eyes. I knew it wasn't. At meals, I was seated at the end of the table. The conversation flowed around me, not to me. They would talk about old family memories I was never a part of, or inside jokes that I didn't understand. I tried to join in, but my words would just hang in the air before someone else started a new topic. They took group photos, dozens of them, with their phones and fancy cameras. In all of them, they are smiling, arms around each other, the blue ocean behind them. I was the one holding the camera. I felt like a ghost at my own party. The breaking point came on the second night. It was the formal dinner, the captain's gala. I wore a simple black dress. I'd spent an hour getting ready, hoping to feel like I belonged. When I walked up to my family's table, they all fell silent for a moment. They were all dressed beautifully, laughing. My father stood up. He put a hand on my arm and guided me away from the table, toward a quiet corner near a large window. The ship's lights twinkled on the dark water. He cleared his throat, not looking at me. "Natalie," he began, his voice low and firm, "we appreciate what you did. The trip, it's generous." I held my breath, waiting for a but. It came, sharp and clean. "But this isn't really your kind of crowd," he said finally, meeting my gaze. His eyes were cold, indifferent. "You're a little out of place here. You don't fit in. You should have just given us the gift and skipped the trip." Every word was a perfectly aimed stone, and each one hit its mark. "You don't fit in." He said it so calmly, as if he were telling me the time. He wasn't being cruel. He was just stating a fact as he saw it. I was the help, and the help doesn't dine with the guests. Something inside me didn't just break. It shattered. It was the last thread of hope I had been clinging to for 31 years. The hope that one day my father would see me with pride. I looked back at the table. My mother was watching, a pained expression on her face, but she said nothing. My siblings were already deep in conversation, not even noticing I was gone. They were a perfect, happy family, and I was the outsider who had paid for the frame. I looked back at my father. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just gave him a small, empty smile. "You're right," I said. My voice was steady. "I don't belong here." I turned and walked away. I didn't go back to the table. I walked through the glittering hallways of the ship, past laughing couples and cheerful music, and went straight to my small, lonely cabin on the lower deck. I closed the door, and only then did the tears come. They weren't loud, hiccuping sobs. They were silent, hot tears of finality. I cried for the little girl who just wanted her dad's approval. I cried for the young woman who thought she could buy love. And then I stopped crying. The hurt was still there, a cold, heavy stone in my chest. But something else was there now, too. A cold, quiet clarity. He was right. I didn't belong with them. But the mistake was thinking I ever did. I picked up my phone and called my business attorney. He had helped me book the cruise through my company's corporate account as a business expense, a client appreciation package. My name, Natalie Pierce, was the sole contract holder. The entire booking, every ticket, every prepaid gratuity, was tied to my corporate credit line. "David," I said, my voice perfectly calm, "I need you to do something for me regarding the booking for the Caribbean Star." He was awake, used to my late-night calls. "What's up, Natalie?" "I need you to put an immediate hold on all onboard charges tied to the family cabins," I said. "Suite 801, 802, and 803, and notify the cruise staff that only I am authorized to approve any further transactions on my booking, effective immediately." There was a pause on the other end. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Everything is finally okay," I replied, and I hung up. The next morning, the fallout began. I had breakfast alone at the buffet, a simple plate of fruit and toast. I felt strangely light. Around 10 a.m., I saw Megan storming away from the spa entrance, her face red with anger. Later, I heard Troy arguing with a staff member at the entrance to the ship's exclusive steakhouse. They finally found me sitting by the main pool reading a book. My father came first, my mother and siblings trailing behind him like a frustrated entourage. "Natalie, what did you do?" he demanded, his voice a low growl. People were starting to look. "What do you mean?" I asked, not looking up from my book. "Our cards don't work," Megan snapped. "They canceled Mom's massage. They said we can't get our premium drink package. They won't even let us into the dining room for lunch. It seems all amenities are tied to Ms. Natalie Pierce's authorization," Troy mimicked in a mocking voice. "You'll need her approval." I finally closed my book and looked up at them. I saw their embarrassment, their indignation, but I saw no remorse. No one asked if I was okay. No one mentioned what my father had said to me last night. "That's correct," I said calmly. "All the extras, the spa, the specialty dining, the internet, the shopping, were charged to my account. I've put a hold on that account." "Why would you do that?" my mother asked, her voice trembling. "You're embarrassing us." "I'm embarrassing you?" I stood up, and for the first time, I felt taller than all of them. "Last night, Dad told me I didn't belong here, that I should have just sent the money. I was disinvited, so I'm taking back my wallet." I looked at my father. "You got what you wanted. I'm no longer part of your vacation." The ship docked in St. Lucia a few hours later. While they were trying to figure out how to pay for their own excursions, I quietly packed my bag, disembarked, and checked into a beautiful, beachfront villa I booked for myself. I sent one final email to the cruise line, officially removing my family from the rest of the itinerary's premium features and reclaiming the non-refundable deposits on the services they hadn't used yet. They could finish the cruise on the standard package, the one with buffet lines and no free drinks. They were no longer my guests. My phone blew up with furious texts and emails. My father's was the most direct. This was a cruel and childish thing to do. You embarrassed this family. I thought about it for a long time, sitting on my private balcony, watching the sunset over the water. Then I replied, I was never invited as family, just a wallet. I'm done paying for my own humiliation. I blocked their numbers. The weeks that followed were quiet. I focused on my work. I traveled for myself, not for anyone else. I bought a small piece of art for my apartment that made me happy. I was healing. A few months later, a business magazine did a feature on my company. The writer was a sharp woman who seemed more interested in my story than my revenue projections. We talked for hours. The article came out with a headline I didn't expect. From family's wallet to CEO of her own path. The story went mildly viral in professional circles. My inbox was flooded with messages from other women, sharing their own stories of being the silent supporter, the family ATM. They understood the quiet pain of giving everything and getting nothing. It felt good to be seen. That article was the catalyst. My mother was the first to call, leaving a tearful voicemail. I'm so sorry, Natalie. I should have stood up for you. I was a coward. Megan sent a long, rambling email full of apologies. She admitted she had been jealous of my success for years and had taken it for granted. Troy sent a text. He offered to start paying me back in installments for his student loans. Then, an email from my father. It was a single line. Maybe you were right. It wasn't a perfect apology. It wasn't a Hollywood ending, but it was honest. It was a crack in the wall of his pride, a crack that had never been there before. I accepted their apologies, but with new boundaries. I no longer fund anyone. Our conversations are different now. They are more careful, more respectful. We are not the close, happy family from the cruise ship photos. Maybe we never will be, but for the first time, it feels real. And me? I am free. I'm not just a daughter or a sister or a wallet anymore. I am Natalie, and I finally have a seat at the most important table of all, my own. Have you ever gone above and beyond for your family, only to be told you didn't belong? You are not alone. Sometimes standing up for yourself doesn't mean shouting. It means quietly withdrawing the resources they took for granted. Sometimes the best thing you can give is nothing at all.